Good morning, student. In the last lecture, we have seen the method of voltage control, and for that we require the reactive power sources or reactive power absorption capacity. So for that, we have seen the conventional method of voltage control. First, we see the shunt reactor, then after we see the shunt capacitor, and then after series capacitor. So these are the conventional method of voltage control by absorbing or supplying the reactive power. Now, last point we discussed that the use of series capacitor. So when you put the series capacitor in series with the line, before that you have to keep in mind the some key consideration for the application of the series capacitor in the power system. So first key consideration or first point which you keep in mind when you use the series capacitor in the power system, that is voltage rise due to the reactive current. So what is the voltage rise and why this voltage rise due to the reactive current? So as you know that the series capacitor that is connected in series with the line, so during the high power swing or heavy power transfer condition, the reactive current flow in the line is very high. And you can see that the capacitor is connected in series with the line. So voltage, one side of the voltage of the capacitor becomes very high, and because of that, that creates the unacceptable voltage stress on the equipments which are connected on this side of the capacitor bank or the series capacitor. So suppose this side of the capacitor bank experience the very high voltage because of the power swing and large reactive current. So because of that, the equipment used at this side like transformer, that also come into the high voltage stress. So to remove this high voltage stress, we require to insulate the equipment at a high insulation level. Same way, we have to design this capacitor to withstand the high voltage. So this is the first point you consider when you design the series capacitor. So you design the system in such a way that limit this high voltage level, or you design the equipment which can withstand this high voltage during the power swing or high power transfer. So this is the first point you consider when you design the series capacitor for the voltage control in the power system. Second point, you consider that the bypassing and reinsertion. So you can see that here this series capacitor is connected in series with the line, but during the fault condition, what will happen? Very high amount of voltage that appears across this capacitor. Under normal condition, the voltage across the capacitor is very few percentage of the rated line voltage, or we can say that regulated voltage. So during the short circuit condition, when fault is happens, at this point the voltage across the capacitor is goes beyond the capacity of this capacitor. So it may be possible that your capacitor will damage. So to avoid this phenomenon, to save your capacitor against this high voltage because of short circuit condition, you have to bypass this capacitor during this fault condition. So the main thing is that how to bypass this capacitor. So first method is that by using the single gap protective scheme. So here you can see that this is a spark gap. Here there is a two electrode, in between that there is a air. Here this is a bypass breaker. So when fault is happens at this side, what will happen? You have to bypass this capacitor by using this spark gap. So you have to design this spark gap in such a way that when fault is happens at this point, this spark gap is ionized and this act as a closed switch. So your whole fault current is bypassed through this spark gap. And here D is the damping circuit. So the function of the damping circuit here is what? When this fault current is bypassed through this spark gap, at this time this capacitor is also discharged through this damping circuit. So the function of this damping circuit is to limit the discharging process of this capacitor. So whole fault current is bypassed through this spark gap. And once the fault current is detected by this bypass breaker, this bypass breaker switch is closed. So again this current from the spark gap is diverted to this bypass breaker. Clear? Again I repeated this. When normal condition current is flowing through the series capacitor, but because of fault condition, what will happen? The high amount of voltage stress appears across this capacitor. So to avoid the damage of this capacitor, you must bypass this fault current. So for that here we provided the spark gap. So spark gap through this damping circuit bypass the fault current, and once this fault current is detected by this bypass breaker, this breaker is closed, and again this current is bypassed from this spark gap to bypass breaker. And once the fault is removed, this bypass breaker is open, and normally the current is flowing through this series capacitor. So that is called as a reinsertion. So when this fault happens and fault is removed, this fault remove is sensed by this bypass breaker, and this breaker is open, and this reinsert this capacitor in series with the line. So this process takes some time. So in this type of configuration, the reinsertion of the capacitor after the clearing of the fault, they may take 200 to 400 milliseconds. So here the reinsertion time of this series capacitor after clearing of the fault is very important to maintain the transient stability of the system. So if you not reinsert this capacitor in a proper time, then you have to not maintain the transient stability of the power system. And you know that if you not maintain the transient stability of the power system, then may be possible that your system may collapse. So the reinsertion time of this capacitor is very important after clearing of the fault. So this single gap protective system takes very high time, like 200 to 400 millisecond for reinsertion of this capacitor after clearing the fault. So to remove this disadvantage, we use the next configuration that is called as the dual gap protective scheme. So here in this scheme you can see that here we have two spark gap G1, G2 and two bypass breaker switch S2 and S1. Here D is the damping circuit. Again the function is same, to limit the discharging of the capacitor. So here what is the difference between this spark gap G1 and G2? Here the spark gap G2, the gap between these two electrode is small as compared to the G1. Normal condition, this switch bypass breaker S2, that is in on condition, it means it is in closed condition. So when fault is happens, the high amount of the fault current is passed through this damping circuit. S2 is already closed, and gap G2 is very small as compared to G1. So G2 is ionized, and that is act as a closed switch. So whole fault current is bypassed through damping circuit S2 and G2 during the fault condition. Here the function of G1 and S1, that is act as a backup protection against for this fault current. So how to provide the reinsertion in this case? So when the fault current is over, or when fault is over, at this time what happens, this switch S2, reinsertion breaker switch S2, that will open, and suddenly your capacitor come into picture, so that the reinsertion time in this case is small as compared to the single gap protective system. What is the reason? Here the gap of G2, that is lower than the gap of G1 or G, which have used here in the single gap protective system. So what will happen when fault is happens? The current is flowing through this D, S2 and G2. Here the spark gap, the air gap is small in the spark gap G2. So the deionization process of the spark gap is very fast as compared to the large gap of the spark gap. Here the spark gap of G1 is higher as compared to the spark air gap of G2. So what will happen in this case? The air gap is large, so deionization process that takes too much time, and because of that, even after the fault is removed, the gap is ionized, and still the normal current is flowing through the damping circuit as well as the spark gap. So after the fault is clear for some period of time, your capacitor is bypassed by this gap. So the reinsertion process that takes time, that is 200 to 400 milliseconds. But in this case, the gap is small as well as backup protection is provided. When switch is open suddenly, so this gap is ionized very fastly, so that the deionization process is fast in this dual gap protective system, and because of that the reinsertion time of the series capacitor is fast as compared to the single gap protective system. So I hope you understand the difference between single gap and double or dual gap protective system. But nowadays, here today scenario, today's power system, we not use this first single gap or dual gap protective system. Here now, because of the non-linear resistor that provide the very fast reinsertion time, so we use this type of scheme. So here you can see that this one is the non-linear resistor, zinc oxide type. So what is the property of the zinc oxide non-linear resistor? Here when fault happens, so voltage across the capacitor becomes very high. So same voltage of the capacitor come across this non-linear resistor. So the property of this non-linear resistor is that when the voltage across the resistor becomes very high, the resistance of this resistor becomes increases, and as the voltage across this resistance decreases, its resistance is also decreases. So what happen here, when fault is happens, obviously at this point voltage across the capacitor is very high and the same voltage appears across this resistor. So this non-linear resistor provide the least resistance path to the fault current. So the fault current is flowing through this non-linear resistor at starting when fault is happen and highest voltage appears across this capacitor. And as the fault is removed slowly and slowly, the voltage across the capacitor is reduces, the resistance of the capacitor is also increases. So the current slowly divert from the non-linear resistor to the series capacitor. So here in this case there is no open or close of the bypass breaker is required. So current reinsertion or series capacitor reinsertion automatically happens once the fault is clear. Yeah. So in this case, because of the automatic reinsertion happens of the capacitor, it takes very few milliseconds as compared to this previous two method. So at this time, this zinc oxide type protective scheme is used for the reinsertion of the series capacitor to avoid the damage of the series capacitor as well as to maintain the transient stability of the system. So this is all about the protection of the series capacitor by providing the bypassing and the reinsertion of the capacitor to avoid the transient stability related problems. Now third point which you keep in mind when you put the series capacitor, that is the location of the series capacitor. So location of the series capacitor is the very influencing factor for providing the voltage control using the series capacitor, because the location of the series capacitor that affects the economic, or we can say the cost or accessibility is also affected. Fault level of the system is also affected, depend upon the location of the capacitor. Voltage profile is also affected by this location of the series capacitor, and effectiveness in improving the power transfer capability of the transmission line, that is also affected by the location of the series capacitor. So when you put the capacitor at any place in the line, you keep in mind all these 5 points so that you can provide the better voltage support with economical point of view as well as from technical point of view. So cost is the economical point of view, accessibility, fault level, voltage profile, and all these are the technical point of view. So location of the capacitor is very important for the voltage control. Three location of series capacitor: first is the midpoint of the line, it is connected at the middle of the line. Second is at the line terminal. At both the end of the line terminal, you can connect the series capacitor. And another is at 1/3 or 1/4 of the line, you can also connect the capacitor. So the midpoint line, or connect the capacitor at the midpoint location of the line, that provide the advantage to the relaying requirements, because relaying scheme is less complicated if you put the capacitor in series with the line at the middle of the transmission line. So if your compensation level by the series capacitor is less than 50%, then the relaying scheme, it means design the relay for the protection of the line, that design is less complicated as compared to this other location of the series capacitor. In addition, the short circuit current is also lower by putting the capacitor at the middle of the line. However, it is not convenient but to access the maintenance for the monitoring and security of the series capacitor. So when you connect the capacitor in series with the line at the midpoint of the line, so the accessibility of the series capacitor for maintenance, monitoring and security, it is not convenient because it is connected at far end of the station. So from this point of view, it is not convenient, but for the protection point of view, relaying requirement is less complicated if at the middle of the line you connect the capacitor. Second method is that line terminal. If you splitting the compensation, means small size of the capacitor bank, whatever the size of capacitor bank is required, split into two parts, one at the one end of the line and other part at the other end of the line. So at each end of the line you provide this capacitor bank, so the accessibility and availability of the service station is available for this series capacitor. So there is no problem related to maintenance, monitoring and security of the series capacitor. But the disadvantage that the higher fault current that creates the complicated relay scheme and higher rating of the compensation that is required the series capacitor. So each and every position of the series capacitor has some advantage and disadvantage. So for the effectiveness of the compensation scheme, that depends on the location of the series capacitor. So when you choose the any compensation scheme like at midpoint or at the terminal of the line, for before putting the series capacitor, you need to require the detailed study with regard the overall economy, means consider the economical point of view as well as consider the system reliability of the system. So after doing this study, you take the decision that which place of the series capacitor is economical from the cost point of view as well as it is good in terms of technical point of view. So before putting the series capacitor at any location, you need to require the detailed study for that particular system. Then after you put the series capacitor at the appropriate place. So this is the third point you need to consider to put the series capacitor for the voltage control in the power system. Now next source or sink of the reactive power for the voltage control is synchronous condenser. So I think all of you know that what is the synchronous condenser. So synchronous condenser is a synchronous machine, but that is running without any prime mover or any mechanical load, and depending on the field excitation, it can absorb or generate the reactive power. Absorb or generate the VAR. VAR means the reactive power. So depending upon the field excitation, or by vary the field excitation, increase or decrease the field excitation, they can absorb or generate the reactive power. So with the voltage regulator, it can automatically adjust the reactive power to maintain the constant voltage. So that's why it is called as the active compensation, because they automatically adjust the reactive power to maintain the constant voltage. Where the previous three methods like shunt reactor, shunt capacitor and series capacitor, that are the passive compensation. Here, they not automatically adjust. They are connected with the line. So they provide the fixed amount of reactive power, or they absorb the fixed amount of the reactive power. So that's why it is called as the passive compensation, but here the synchronous condenser that automatically adjusts the reactive power based on the requirement to maintain the constant voltage at the line. So that's why it is called as a active compensation. Now, how it works? So it is started as an induction motor, and then after it is synchronized with the system to provide the compensation. And it is normally connected to the tertiary winding of the transformer. And unlike the SVC, a synchronous condenser has an internal voltage source. So this is the advantage. So and second is the speed response, not as fast as that of the SVC. This is a disadvantage of this synchronous condenser. Response provided by the synchronous condenser for the voltage support is not as fast as SVC. SVC is the static var compensation system, that is a FACS device that we will discuss in the next lecture. So synchronous condenser and static var compensation both are the active compensation for the voltage control, where the series capacitor, shunt reactor, these three are the passive compensation devices. So now we start this chapter. We start this topic, basic classification of the FACS devices for the compensation. So there are different types of FACS controller or FACS devices. You can see here. In the first lecture, we have classified these FACS devices or compensation devices based on the connection like series shunt, and series. But what is the detailed classification of FACS? So we have see here the series controller or series FACS devices that include the thyristor controlled series capacitor. In short, it is called as a TCSC. Another is static synchronous series compensator. In short, it is called as a SSC. So both are the series FACS controller or FACS devices. Then shunt controller. First is the static var compensator. In short, it is called as a SVC. That is a shunt controller. Second shunt controller is the static synchronous compensator. In short, it is called as a STATCOM. Then series shunt FACS devices, that is unified power flow controller. In short, it is called as UPFC. And fourth one, series FACS devices, that is interline power flow controller. In short, it is called as a IPFC. So out of all these 6 FACS controller, the 2 FACS controller are thyristor based. So you can see that thyristor based FACS controller. So this red mark, TCSC and SVC, both are the thyristor based. It means thyristor is used as a FACS devices for the control of the reactive power or voltage, where the other 4, SSC, STATCOM, UPFC and IPFC, that is a voltage source converter based FACS controller. So based on the technology, there are 2 classification. One is thyristor based, which is TCSC and SVC, and another is VSC based. VSC means voltage source converter based FACS controller, in which include the SSC, this one, STATCOM, UPFC and IPFC. So this is the detailed classification of the FACS devices. So in this chapter, first we discuss the shunt compensator, which is a static var compensator. Then after we will discuss this remaining FACS devices. So SVC is generally used in most of the power system for the reactive power compensation and voltage control. So let's start this topic, static var compensator. This is the first FACS controller, first shunt controller, static var compensator. So here you can see that the static var compensator, so the name suggests that there is no any rotating or moving part in this compensator like synchronous condenser. In synchronous condenser, you know that this is a one machine, this is a rotating machine. So this is not a static machine. But here the static var compensator system, that is a static system because there is no any rotating or moving parts, because here we use the thyristor as a switch for the control of the reactive power. So that's why it is called as a static var compensator. Static means there is no moving parts. VAR means reactive power, and compensator means static reactive power compensator, or you can say the static VAR compensator. In short, you can say that SVC.